Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this course of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in Module 2. In this module, we are going to see definitions of sustainability, aspects of sustainability and transition from MDGs to SDGs. Yeah, so if you see the dictionary meaning of word sustainable, well, what does it mean? It's an adjective and it means the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level. Conserving an ecological balance, for example, by avoiding depletion of natural resources, our fundamental commitment to sustainable development. Second definition, it talks about able to be upheld or defended, sustainable definitions of good education practices or anything. So, well, the thing is, the point is like able to be maintained. So, that means whatever we have, whatever you possess, you are able to maintain it, you are able to sustain it. For example, if you are driving at like a certain speed, per hour, if you are able to maintain that speed, without any like acceleration or deceleration or jerk or anything, right? So that's a sustained, like a velocity at which you are moving, at that speed, you are moving and you are going in certain direction, right? So that is that quality able to be maintained at certain rate. Okay, so you have to maintain that rate, right? So when this comes with the respect to the whole planet, okay, what we are observing in the last few decades and 1 or 2 centuries, the changes which have like started occurring after industrialization. Okay, now with that respect, keeping in mind that respect, this whole like analysis has started, and this person in the picture over here, she was the prime minister, born in 1939, Gro Harlem Brundtland, minister, president of Norway, 1983 to 87, she was the chair of WCED, okay, and then, well, she has occupied, various positions, and she has actually, kind of like played active role in defining what does sustainable development means, okay. So in that, like a very famous report, she mentioned to make development sustainable to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Okay, so this was the actually compelling like a statement, compelling like a premise which spoke of what does sustainability means and how we have to like a take our like a development and growth and everything into account to maintain this space so that it remains there in future also. What remains in there in the future and also in terms of like resources, and the whole of this planet, including its living and non-living beings, in its present form, so that they continue to exist tomorrow. Like we are aware, several species have now gone extinct. Well, many of them have occurred because of the natural progression and all of those things, but many of them, for them actually responsible is the human society, this economic development, this like a present form of development and the impacts caused by it. Okay, so how that can be checked, that is the premise on which we have to work. And this is what like a definition like evolved for sustainability by this like a person and many others. This researcher, if maybe you can search them like a separately, presented a typology of energy efficient buildings with respect to the buildings, like architecture, civil, construction, manufacturing, those respects, then environment friendly buildings and sustainable buildings. Well, they all actually like mean different. Usually in our everyday life we use these terms like synonymously, but they are not the same, right? We have to be very cautious, what does this actually like mean, which was further strengthened by like these researchers, that energy efficient buildings deal with the only one element of the environments. So for example, if it is energy efficient building, it deals directly with the saving of energy, like you see right here. Like BE stars, like electronic gadgets you may be aware of, or computing and other like devices. They come with like a star ratings. B star ratings, you may have seen electrical gadgets, household gadgets like fridge, washing machine, and like air conditioners and stuff. and then computing devices and many other like a sort of devices. They come with certain like a rating, like they are either 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, and like a yeah. So before getting launched into the market, like they are assessed, they are evaluated, they are tested, for their efficiency, and based on the benchmark, this benchmark is the like a scale, is that parameter from which it is like assessed. If this is my 0 level, like a plus minus 0 level, okay, so from here the product should be in the positive side, that it is like efficient. It should definitely doesn't go in the like a negative side, and definitely it should not be at the 0 level also. At least it should acquire at least 1 star, like here, okay, then 2, and then 3, and then 5 being the maximum, right? So accordingly it achieves like these number of stars, and it gets like a market worthy, right? So this is one way of like contributing to this whole phenomena by talking only about like energy, okay, but there are multiple factors, okay. So if it handles like an environment, if it includes environment, if it takes care of the environment, it becomes environment friendly building. Okay, so energy efficiency becomes a subset of environment friendly like approaches. Okay, so of course it will take care of this plus environment. What does environment include? The surrounding landscape, the geography, the topography, the water, the air, and all of those things. The moment it goes even beyond this, okay, this environment friendly also becomes a subset of this bigger set of a sustainable building, right? And sustainable building, the moment this word actually comes, it's not just about the environment anymore, it's about the society and economics also, right? So if like your product, your design, if your entity is serving to these three together, you may call it as like a sustainable building, right? And so on. There are multiple like a such like a derivations, definitions. Yeah, so the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time. Another very simple like a definition. Now with respect to the three aspects, like a environment, society, and economics. So here in this one you can see the new definition of sustainability overcomes flaw hampering global transformation efforts. So here we have environment, which is roughly our whole planet. Then we have society. Society includes the people, the households, the communities, the multiple communities, and the country, maybe multiple countries at a time, right? So all of this like a set of like a humans which are existing like in different pockets across the world. And then the economy, okay, the profitability, the demand and supply, like that chain, like a manufacturing, disposal, all of that chain actually comes under like this economics like a aspect. And interestingly, if you see at the cusp of these three lies the sustainability. So if something which is serving to all of these three, you may call it as sustainable, right? So it should not go into the negative. You see, like in this diagram, it is illustrated, like an environment is getting separated, society is getting separated, economy is getting separated, right? And there is no common, like overlapping, like a region coming together. Okay, so that cannot be called as a sustainable one. For example, if I go back, a gadget or a device which is energy efficient, of course it is doing something, it's good, but it's not sustainable unless it is addressing to the social and economic dimensions also, and other environmental dimensions also, right? So that is the difference. I hope it is clear now. And very strong sustainability in this scenario where environment actually encompasses the rest of the two, where society encompasses the economics of things. Okay, so this here you can observe like a strong like a sustainability where this has the highest presence across all of the domains, all of the aspects. So under this topic, an interdisciplinary team led by senior researcher Dr. Christoph Rupprecht, FEAST project RIHN, has revealed a new definition of sustainability that expands the concept to non-human species and their needs. With this new definition, published in the journal Global Sustainability, the researchers addressed a critical flaw in the original concept of sustainability, that was hindering global transformation efforts. Examples from landscape planning and the Healthy Urban Microbiome initiative suggest the new multi-species sustainability concept will have wide-ranging applications. So it says the very key, like a term used over here is non-human species and their needs. What are non-human species and their needs? Well, the rest of the flora and fauna, right? So how about their existence? Well, they are also the kind of like a habitants of this planet, right? Not only the humans. So how their well-being, welfare is being taken care of, is the responsibility of the like a human species also. Well, a human species is one of the advanced species where we can think and do a lot of stuff, right? And since we have the human society is has reached into a commanding position on this planet, okay, so of course they have this responsibility. They cannot leave like all of the other species behind, because there is a very integral relationship between our existence and their existence. Like we know, like a very small like these creature of like these honeybees, and their existence, they are so much crucial for like a human society, and the whole of the agriculture, of the pollination. So coming down to each and every aspect, if you see, their existence is immensely crucial. It's not just important, it is crucial. It is kind of it is a deciding factor that our agriculture is going to like a continue in future or not. It depends on their existence also, right? So this is, you can say, is the direct interconnectedness, direct relationship, direct dependence, right? So other non-human species also must be like taken care of, and this is what like this means from this like approach under sustainability over here. Further, the team of 19 researchers identified a contradiction at the core of sustainability. Its resource management approach ignores that the well-being and needs of all living beings is interdependent in ecologically complex ways. To overcome this critical flaw, they combined recent advances in multi-species ethnography with research by indigenous scholars and insights from cybernetics. Based on this work, the team formulated a set of 6 principles and a new concept of multi-species sustainability, defined as meeting the interdependent needs of all species while enhancing the ability of future generations of all species to meet their own needs. The researchers then showcased potential applications that help enable human-wildlife coexistence and radically rethink urban green space design based on recent microbiome and public health insights. So very important points coming over here, like how, if you see, like a rethink urban green space design based on recent microbiome and public health insights. So all of these like important keywords are important. New concept of multi-species urban. Again, this is being reiterated over here, and now we are coming into the smaller like a finer points. For example, microbiome. Well, what is microbiome? Microbiome is that like a small like a cusp in which like a multiple interactions of like a different elements, species, and like a things happen, and they actually get nourishment, and they nourish each other also. They help other species also to survive, right? Like for example, in the food chain, we are all aware, the predators come at the top, okay, but it doesn't mean the like species which are at the bottom, they are not important, and only the predator is the important, okay. So, and in another one, predator is not important, only the large like a volume, these non-predating like species is only important. Well, none of these two statements are like a can like take place in isolation. Both are interdependent and both are equally important. Both are necessary for the survival of each other. Okay, so we know like a bigger fish like us eat the smaller fish. Okay, so both actually help each other to grow. Even bigger fish is not just eating like these smaller fish. It creates like a cohesive environment for the smaller fish to survive also. Okay, so there are like a latest researches which suggest like a such kind of like a interdependence of different species, okay, at different scales. So this is like a beautiful like a balance we can call, which is very important to be maintained. Further, whether you look at climate change, biodiversity decline, or microplastic pollution, sustainability efforts are failing across the board. Well, there are efforts, but some of these efforts are not truly actually able to bear the fruits, the intended fruits. Okay, and this is where this constant evaluation and assessment becomes essential. Researchers pointing to capitalism and arguing for degrowth are not wrong, but radical transformation requires the right tools. Only a concept that understands and fosters complex multi-species relationships can help sustain the well-being of species depending upon another, today and tomorrow, argues Christoph Ruprecht, lead author of this study. So it actually the researcher like a very pinpointedly like underlines this like interdependence, and it mentions like how this can be like done. A very strong like a forceful implementation of like a policies is essential for this thing. Arguing for degrowth are not wrong. So if you see some of the researchers they are talking about reducing the growth like the growth and development what we know of. Okay, so there is a direct like a relation between growth and development, okay, to the like impact which is getting generated by human society on the planet. Okay, so this direct relationship this impact can only be like reduced if there is a reduction into this. Okay, so well, not necessarily you have to change everything, but change in such a way that it addresses like those key issues. Well, meeting the demands of the human society is also essential, but at the same time, what about other species? That is the question, that is the like a dimension this researcher and these like a set of like a people are posing. So these are the dimensions, these are the like a various like a concepts around sustainability. Further, this is one visual model of multi-species sustainability focused on interdependence element depend on those containing them and are affected by those they contain. So if you see, it's a kind of an interdependent model, one contains another, and some of these are like a subsets, and like a parallelly they are coexisting and helping each other. Okay, so this relationship you can see at the top one we have this atmosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, and all of them. Okay, under that we have this living like a habitation wala zone, biosphere, and then inside that we are kind of inhabited inside this microbial societies. We know like these microbes how essential they are for our human survival also. Well, some of them are like a pesky and like a they create like issues, but a majority of them are essential also, okay, for the human survival and the survival of other species. Inside that we have two kingdoms, plant kingdoms, plant societies and animal societies represented by these bubbles. Inside that, at the cusp of that like human societies are surviving. We need like a both. It's not that we don't need any of these plants, it's not that we don't need any of the animals. They help. Like I just gave the example of one honeybee. Similarly, there are like a number of species which are crucial. Their existence is crucial for the survival of humans, right? Inside that we have this like economics going on, human economics. Inside that also we have formal economics. There are like a multiple informal economics and things like that. Okay, so this is the kind of like a set and subset you can see for your own understanding. Further, An analysis of how the sustainability concept has been visualized in the literature underscores the team's findings. In the sustainability concept, environment, society, and economy are given equal weight, despite the latter two depending entirely on the former. This is interesting. In contrast, in the new study, the conceptual models developed by the researchers involved taking a nested approach focused on the interdependence of human, animal, plants, and microbial societies. A nested approach, we just saw before. Another model emphasizes how the earth system, including landscapes, cities, and the bodies of living things, is shaped by shared agency. So the question put up by researcher over here is, okay, if environment is the one which nourishes the rest of the like other two, how can these two take the equal like a share while like a paying attention, while like a dealing with it, while like a distributing resources and other like a stuff. Okay, so that's a very just like a demand, because environment definitely comes at the priority because it contains society and economics inside it. Okay, so definitely it holds the commanding position and it should be addressed like adequately. Further, he adds, our work would not have been possible without building on indigenous knowledge. Very important like a point over here. What is indigenous knowledge? Well, across the world like societies have been surviving in different unique like a geographical, climatic, cultural like a backgrounds and scenarios. Okay, uniquely. So they have supply of like something over here which is not available maybe here, something unique is available over here which is not available over here, and so on, right? So but human societies have survived in all of these like places in their own unique ways. Okay, what are those knowledge sets which deal about those local characteristics that comes under like these indigenous knowledge which is coming from generations and generations of humans and other species, right? Many best practices have been developed by indigenous people and are part of traditional ecological knowledge systems. So now we are coming on to the traditional ecological knowledge systems. A very interesting like a keyword. It carries a lot inside it. It talks about traditional world, talks about ecology world, it talks about knowledge here, and the system. What is system? So system, I'll go like a backwards. System actually includes all of those relevant and interdependent stakeholders, their acts, their activities, and the interrelationships. Knowledge is this set of like informations which are crucial to know like a things like the physical, psychological like all of those like material like a like a knowledge sets about things, how it functions different species. And then ecology, that the existence of all of it together, that ecology. And traditional, which is getting passed over generations, because that is essential for survival, and those are the survival like a knowledge sets which are getting passed from generations to generations to help the new generation to cope up, right? So it's a very essential like a part to develop a sustainable system. Okay, well, you must think about it. Maybe you can look for your own like a place based like a traditional knowledge ecological like that system set, and maybe you can prepare a case study. Which societies and cultures have the best track records in coexisting with other species? A lot of such examples you can see from Asia, Africa, and South America, and many other like places where how they have coexisted like together, and how they have kind of like helped each other to survive. And the same knowledge sets, actually why it is essential to like I mentioned over here, the same knowledge set is going to help us even in future. So this is this model, this visual model of multi-species sustainability emphasizing shared agency in shaping the earth system. You can see different like stakeholders. So this is this earth like earth system, where we have cities, bodies, ocean landscapes, atmosphere, and other natural like elements together. So this is how like our earth actually functions. This has been functioning for a long time. The team hopes their findings will be a starting point for exploration and discussion. From questions about what multi-species cities might look like to the implications of a multi-species inspired concept of public health. There may be only few areas where a multi-species approach to sustainability will not bring fundamental changes. This is the word cloud. You can have a look, Well, it depends, from place to place, entity to entity, and what focus, like you have, what do you desire, what sort of information you want to like derive out of, like that knowledge system around sustainability. Okay, so mostly you will be, like getting these keywords, it's a very good, like a group of keywords. Maybe you can have a look. We have ecology, energy, carbon neutral, sustainability, emissions, resources, climate change, biosphere, future. We have consumption, inequality, transport, alternative, world, urban planning, earth, emissions, government. Then we have law, human needs, biosphere, management, carbon neutral, global warming. Then we have renewable, recycling, emissions, biosphere, global warming, consumption, management, crisis, economy, crisis. Then we have urban planning, production, human needs, future. So these are some like interesting keywords which pop up like around the different aspects of sustainability. And they bring like a fresh perspective. They bring like some concerns in this whole pool which needs to be like addressed and catered to. Well, what is the competitive advantage? You can see like this illustration over here, source mentioned. People, environment, like a processes, and at the cusp of like these, how different other like elements have come. So in the people, we have reactive management, solving problems, firefighting. In the process, we have departmental mentality, variation, toolkit mentality, self-interest, lacking strategic focus. In environmental, we have compliance, consider an expense, non-competitive, program du jour. At the cusp of these two, people and processes, we get innovation, preventing problems, speed, understand sustainability vision, support structure. And then we have interdepartmental teams, collaboration, employee loyalty. Then at the cusp of people and environment, we have employee engagement, public communication, proactiveness. Sustainability is viewed as an integral part of what makes an organization profitable. Then at the cusp of these two, we have process and environment, alignment, effective with the supply chain, systems thinking. And then at the cusp of these three lies, like the sustainability aspects. And then here we have the advantages: long-term growth, systems thinking, profitability, customer loyalty, stewardship. Now we will see, some of the aspects of sustainability. So here we have definition and scope of sustainability. So you can understand where does like this sustainability lies. So a green design, then comes energy efficient, environment friendly, then it becomes sustainable one. This like a dotted circle what you are seeing, which includes environment, society and economics, in local and in an external concept, depending upon the need and the situation, or maybe a connected like a context. Beyond this also there is a possibility that it goes to the landscape and biodiversity conservation. Even beyond that, at global level, we have this humongous like a frameworking, sustainable development and climate change mitigation. So how this whole phenomena of climate change can be studied and how mitigating policies and action plans can be implemented, and this can be corrected. The three different ESE aspects. Society helps for improving standard of living, education, community opportunities, etc. In economics, we talk about profits, cost saving, economic growth. In sustainability, we talk about use of natural resources, pollution prevention, environmental management, etc.